Tomorrow is Election Day, municipal elections, local elections, state Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, of course. In Downers Grove, which has become, it's even difficult for me to say, but it's just so true, been sort of a hotbed of leftist activism. The neo-Marxists have been ascendant in Downers Grove, as they have in DuPage County generally over the last decade. Really taking control. I'm sure some people have noticed. I know a lot of people are scratching their heads. How did it happen? Well, we've focused on Downers Grove quite a bit just because of the controversies of Drag Queen Story Hour, fiercely defended by the leading light of the left, it seems to me, in Downers Grove, Leslie Sadowski-Fugit, who is a village board member and I think aspiring mayoral candidate.
Drag Queen bingo. Well, she's going to run for mayor?
I'm sure she has big aspirations. She wants to grow up to be Anastasia Murray or something like that. The library controversies. Bill Nienberg, friend of the show, was thrown off this voluntary library board for daring to cross Leslie Sadowski-Fugit. And it's also a story about how libraries become these incubators of leftism because they're staffed by a bunch of leftists and people not paying attention, and the not only the staffing, but then they go out for bond issues and they build these Taj Mahal libraries like we saw in Lombard. I mean, it's just remarkable how easy it is to completely lose control of your community. And so this is a refrain for DuPage County and a lot of Chicago suburbs. Paul Drabik is used to fighting other people's fights because he's a U.S. Army combat veteran, served in Iraq. He's a data finance professional who has been rather outspoken in Downers Grove when many have not been. And I guess, like so many, he was really animated by the COVIDian policies of that bygone era from 5 minutes ago. Paul Drabik is candidate for village board in Downers Grove. He joins us now. Paul, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hi, Dan and Amy, for having me on.
So it was the school shutdowns and idiot circles and mandatory masks and mandatory vax and all that really got you awakened and involved?
Yeah. So I had gone to the school board meetings and started speaking out about the masking, the shutdowns, and so forth, and met a bunch of like-minded parents, and then started kind of uncovering the lid to what kind of radical leftism was going on in the rest of our community, as you mentioned, particularly in the library. And Downers Grove seems to be a hotbed for controversy in that sense. People like our mutual friend Leslie, who I hear you're not exchanging Christmas cards with anymore.
No, she's not a fan of mine.
Sorry, relationship's gone sour.
Yeah. She hates me too. I've never actually had a conversation with her, but
that's not required for her to hate you, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I started looking in the library, and there's obviously you guys mentioned the drag queen bingo event, which the town went crazy about. We filled the town hall. They claim that threats shut it down. It's like, no, of course not. It was people that didn't want it at the library. But since then, they've had Pride Story Hour for 2 to 6 year olds. They hired a social work intern who held a transgender Santa Claus event for children at the Methodist Church. HBO covered that. They created a native land statement because, we need to be sorry about killing Indians in 2025. They spent $160,000 on a DEI consultant who claimed Downers Grove was historically racist. And recently, thanks to some constituents that came to my event, we found that they were shelving the kids section with pornographic cartoon porn books for children from 4 to 8, describing the sexual act in complete detail and even showing pictures of coitus, people engaged in the sex, cartoon adults engaged in sex. So you can find all that stuff on my website, www.pauldrabik.com.
Yeah, it's interesting that DEI contract really that one really roils me because I was willing to do the Downers Grove is racist report for 150 grand, and they didn't give it to me. They gave it to that woman who they paid 160. So yeah, that
well, Dan,
stings.
you know the government loves to spend money. They're not going to.
Yeah.
They don't care about how cheap it is.
Well, so I mean, so what is the? I mean, so Downers Grove as a canary in the coal mine for DuPage County, for example. What is your sense of it? Is the counter revolution really coming to Downers Grove? Have people had enough of being scolded by the Leslie Sadowski Fugits of the world?
Well, that's been my experience. I've gotten a ton of traction. I have a little background with podcasts and write for the Gateway Pundit, so maybe I'm an outlier, but I've got a ton of traction on Facebook. Facebook's a good place for local, I think. And then, I've sold out my yard signs. So I think that in Illinois, there's this general apathy toward Republicans because they haven't stood up like this and said, no, I'm not going to, I don't care that you call me a Nazi, which leave it to the Democrats to cheapen that phrase. And I'm going to stand up for my principles. I'm going to stand up for my conservative values. And now that you have cheapened the terms like Nazi, white supremacist, homophobe, we can just stand on our principles and say no to this cultural nonsense and this insanity. So people are excited about that. I think you just need a leader to get out in front and, people will follow. So seems to be working. Hopefully that results in an election win tomorrow.
So there's 3 city council members that you vote for tomorrow. Are you running on a ticket with 2 other people? Running as
No,
a group?
I'm not running as a slate, but I would say because of my outspokenness, we've had one candidate in particular, Matt Novak, who has spoken out with a Facebook video saying, it's not okay to have cartoon porn books in the kids section of the library. And he spoke about the free speech zones that we have in our park district parks now. So just last week, Downers Grove was on the cover of the Sun-Times because we have free speech zones, these little relegated squares in our parks. And then our second pedophile...
it's like idiot circles.
Well, wait. Before we get to Downer South, so the idiot circles were replaced by free speech zones.
How big is the zone? How many square feet?
Oh, I can't even remember. They have a sign in front of it, but they actually stopped a political candidate while she was trying to speak to people at the park one day and relegated her to one of these zones.
To the zone.
And I have leftists. I have leftists who are actually arguing with me about this. Well, case law. Same thing with the library and the books. They're quoting the First Amendment, and I try to explain to these people, the government doesn't exercise your free speech for you. When the public institution uses your tax dollars to put cartoon porn books into the library, it's called propaganda, not free speech. You can buy those books on Amazon. Don't force me to subsidize your depravity. So it's
and I don't understand, but on the free, yeah. So I get that, right? That's editorial discretion. It's not censorship. You're not eliminating the books from print. It's just a specious argument, but. The free speech zone. So give me the philosophy behind that policy, as you understand it.
Yeah. So I think they have quoted specific case law to say there's certain instances where they want to protect the public from protesters if there's a kids event there, things like this. They'll do things at parks where they'll shield lighting from surrounding neighborhoods or shield noise from surrounding neighborhoods. But my contention is like we already have laws for, disturbing the peace, right? Things of this nature. And if you don't want your kids' event to get disrupted by protesters, then have it on private property. The public space is for everybody. And when the government tells you that you have to be relegated to a zone, I mean, the way I read the First Amendment is they're abridging your free speech. I really don't care what case law says. I mean, if a park district employee comes up to me and says I have to go over to the square,
Yeah.
to exercise my First Amendment right, then that's the government abridging my First Amendment.
Well, it's a
right.
15 by 15 foot zone, so you can have a few other people, but not a huge crowd in there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's so
like a table
ridiculous.
or a tent.
I mean, are they going to call the police on you if you're outside of the free speech zone?
Well, I might just have to test it out, Amy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
starting to get a little bit of a profile. I might as well
It's-
keep going with it.
It's a solution in search of a problem. I mean, to
safety.
formally create zones, but this is the way that the statist thinks. So, so it's you and Novak for Village Council tomorrow, and if you two were successful, then what happens in Downers Grove?
So my whole campaign is about citizens first. I think these people, like you said, statists, they're about the government and themselves, not the people who they're supposed to be representing. And I've also called for accountability, common sense, and transparency in government, some simple things. I've been scolded by the mayor and other candidates saying, well, we don't have any control over other taxing districts. Well, you have a platform. You have a platform in your town, you've had 2 pedophiles at your high school get arrested in the last 3 years, 3 speech zones in your park, a social work intern hired at the library who had a transgender Santa Claus event. And these were all covered by, big media outlets, and they have said nothing. These people want you to think we live in Mayberry. But the LGBTQ pride, secular religion is trying to take over and introduce cartoon porn books to your kids and all kinds of other things. So I'm just trying to shine a spotlight on that and provide a different perspective on Village Council, because they want you to think that everything is hunky-dory.
And then with respect to this other issue that Bill Nienberg has brought up, the former library board member, then with you and with Novak, then you take up the issue of an elected library board rather than one that's appointed and can be removed by the village board?
Yeah, so there's a few things that can be done there. The other council members or the candidates will have you think that it can't be done. We have like 26 elected library boards in DuPage County. But furthermore, I would just point to the incident where they kicked off our mutual friend, Bill Nienberg. We have a library director who has broken Illinois law, violated law, and likely our Fourth Amendment rights by releasing all library card holder names to the public. We affirmed that with the Illinois Attorney General. We've made it known to the library board and the village council, crickets. So what we can do is say, when we're on the council and we have the numbers, say we're going to remove each and every one of you library board members until you either do what we want, fire this director, depoliticize the library, or you can create a resolution. We'll send it down to Springfield, and we'll have an elected library board, and you'll still be part of the village government. There are solutions. Like, I would always point to the leftists who love to engage in lawfare. People who love government know that government can always come up with a solution to provide their own incentives. So, if the people want to provide their own incentives, we can certainly use government to do so.
Did you ever have any ambition to run for office before COVID?
I had been speaking publicly a lot with the American Legion. I had a friend there in Westmont who brought me on the American Legion, said that I was a good public speaker, asked if I should, wanted to do that. And so I started to do that. I started to get interested in it. When I got involved in politics, I challenged the local Republican Party for certain things, not calling out some of the sexualization of the kids, some of that stuff, and, started a podcast. So it all kind of just happened naturally. And then people encouraged me to run for office, and, I served our country in combat. And I guess the way I look at it is I I'm obligated to serve. If I'm capable, then I'm obligated. And so I'm just trying to go with it. Politics can be a little bit of a nasty sport, however, so I'm taking it one day at a time.
Paul Drabik, he's a candidate for village board, Downers Grove. He's on the ballot tomorrow along with Novak. What's his name, Matt Novak?
Yeah, Matt Novak.
Matt Novak. So Matt Novak and Paul Drabik, village board candidates in Downers Grove, on the ballot tomorrow. Paul, thanks for joining us. Good luck.
Dan and Amy, appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Let's face it, the world is uncertain these days, but there's something reassuring about holding onto what lasts. The 2025 1-ounce Gold Eagle from the U.S. Mint, a symbol of American strength and an asset that stands the test of time. You can trust gold and you can trust global